I want to review a movie, but I am feeling horrible Marvel fatigue. I feel pointless, apathetic, hopeless, sad. But Florence Pugh is so hot. Maybe I watch this new one. Maybe I just jump off this bridge.
Hey, I'm Nat Rogachevsky.
And I'm Crawford Banks.
And we're broke. We watch movies during the day because they are cheaper.
Because neither of us have jobs.
And together we form the Thunderbolts.
Asterisk.
The asterisk is for Matinee Bros. That is us.
Because we are no longer the boys. We tried to be the boys and it didn't work out.
Yeah, we filmed a whole episode and then saw that it already was taken by another movie review channel that's not nearly as good.
And we're better as bros than boys anyways.
Yeah, we were bros for a long time.
Well, like 6 months.
Yeah, but it happened fast.
Yeah, we're Eskimo bros. It is our pleasure to introduce the Goodwill Hunting of Marvel movies.
Thunderbolts!
Cue the music! First off, Nat, do you like this movie?
Yeah, I did. How about you?
It's tough to admit, but genuinely, I kind of did like this movie.
Yeah, we were both taking like all these negative notes because they, stick out in Marvel movies. And then afterwards, we were both like, God, they did a good job.
They did a really good job. That the theme was good. I mean, we'll get into like the parts that annoyed us, but like overall,
it's a good movie.
It's a decent movie. It's like, a good time.
It's like at the end of High Fidelity when Jack Black and the other guy find the tape for that band that's been stealing their records. And they're like, who is this? It's those record thieves. And they both all just go, oh.
Yeah, or John Cusack in the crowd when he starts singing Let's Get It On. I've been really trying, baby. Surprisingly, this is my favorite Marvel film since Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, I would agree. It's really good. Thor Ragnarok was good. It's a bummer that they didn't let Taika Waititi spread his wings, but what are you going to expect from a Disney movie?
They need to let Taika spread his TT. Taika, thank you so much for coming in.
Kia ora, mate.
Is that Australian?
Yeah, the New Zealand accent is tough. Subtle.
Well, okay. I brought you in here to talk about Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, actually, I had a couple of ideas about that, mate.
Whoa. Before you get into that, first, I just want to...
This movie was directed by Jake Schreier, who has done a bunch of music videos in Hollywood for Benny Blanco. He did the We Cry Together video for Kendrick Lamar.
He also directed the movie Paper Towns, which is another movie I have not thought about since high school. And speaking of Jake Schreier, he actually did a decent job with this movie. Yeah. Instead of just putting the camera in front of superheroes and using insanely expensive CGI, you can tell he actually put some thought into what he was doing. From the very beginning, there's this like overhead bird's eye view shot of a fight scene, and all the villains are sort of silhouetted, which adds this like great foreshadowing for later in the film as Florence Pugh is beating the shit out of them. And I just remember thinking while I was sitting in the theater, like, damn, this is a good shot.
Totally.
This is good choreography.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a direct reference, but I was thinking about Old Boy and in the fight scene where they introduce his power, or how badass he's become after masturbating to gymnastics videos in Korea, locked up in a room. But she's kicking ass. And what's interesting about that is we both noticed that shot directly after the first bad Marvel joke that happened.
Right.
Because it's inescapable. There is bad Marvel comedy in this that we're going to touch on. But it's something like she has this opening monologue that's like fine, but a cool shot of like this really cool, she's jumping from a building kind of thing. And then the very first comedic relief is she essentially sneaks up behind a guy, and when he notices her, she says in a horrible Russian accent, "Boo, boo, boo." And so at first your knee jerk is like, oh, here we go again.
Right.
And then you get hit with a super interesting shot that's like really fun, really well choreographed, and we're like, hold on a second. what is happening? This movie is very well paced. It's super interesting and engaging. The comedy takes away from the movie for the most part. That's to be expected in the MCU. It's sort of like when you're like in a beautiful place and you're experiencing all these new things, and you're, let's say, in the back of a car with an open roof, and you're like, wow, this is so pretty, and then bugs keep hitting you in the eyes and the mouth, and you're like, this would be so awesome if it wasn't for these fucking bugs.
Right, it's like going to a tourist attraction in Europe, like the Il Duomo in Florence, and turning around and seeing like touristy gelato stands in a Louis Vuitton store. You're like, this doesn't really fit in here.
And we're gonna kind of give a bit of a scale, because this movie is pretty solid on its own and kind of great for a Marvel movie. I call it my beaten into a state of submission scale as it pertains to Marvel films. Like, at some point you just have to accept it.
Classically in Marvel fashion, the pacing sort of just glazes over characters' lore and the background of everybody. We just kind of get into this, this is happening because it's happening, and we're just going to explain it to you in a very transactional, literal sense, rather than some cinematic unraveling that gets you invested in these characters. They just sort of rely on characters seeming quirky and cool enough to get you by. I honestly wish this film didn't play like the ultimate sequel, like they would have given these characters a chance to just shine and build up on their own like they did with the previous Avengers. Like, if you're gonna try and be the new Avengers, like, give them some substance. And let's be honest, the reason I care about Florence Pugh so much in this movie is because she's hot and sad.
Which hot and sad chicks are a pretty huge weakness of mine and Crawford's.
Very. Eskimo bros.
Which perfectly takes us into Florence Pugh's performance, which is fantastic. Forget the terrible Russian accent. No one's going to do a good Russian accent.
Suspension of belief when watching these films.
That's not good.
She's fantastic.
Yeah.
She's one of the best young working actresses for sure. I haven't really seen her miss. And it's kind of rare that you take a great actress and put them into the MCU and they have an opportunity to shine. But because of some of the themes of this movie that we'll touch on later, because of a little bit of character depth that they give her, she's actually a pretty well-rounded, well-realized character that she performs super duper well, that I'm pretty bought into from jump.
Right. I mean, her existentialism carries out through the whole film from beginning to end. What's the point of being here? What's the point of living? And she plays that very convincingly and makes, you as an audience member wonder these same things and go back into these dark black rabbit holes that we get into of, really, what is the point?
What we see a lot in the Marvel heroes is they will take this little nook and cranny of a personality and sort of blow it up so the character becomes all quirk. And no one really knows this guy. Like, for example, Robert Downey Jr., although he sort of develops a conscience throughout the Iron Man saga,
right?
The kind of rich playboy billionaire thing, no one actually knows this person in real life. We know like sort of character traits of it that they then blow up on this cosmic scale to really sell the shit out of Iron Man, whereas Florence Pugh, who is the face of the movie, is textured. It has real depth. And at no point was I like, I don't know anyone like this. It was super relatable on a personal level and as well as in the world as I experience it.
Yeah, her character is the perfect opposite to Wyatt Russell's character, which was probably one of the worst acting performances I have seen in a Marvel film. And that's saying a lot because there's been some really bad performances in Marvel films.
Truly awful. No offense to Wyatt Russell, except like, if you're watching this, it was bad. Which is fine. It didn't take too much away from the movie, but he is bad. And it starts to open up this discussion, which like the hottest thing to be upset about right now, other than ICE in Israel, is nepo babies.
Yeah.
Before all the big news, there's this whole push on TikTok and social media about how bad nepo babies are, which is an interesting thing because Bill Pullman's son, Lewis Pullman, who plays Bob and later plays another character, is fantastic.
Yeah, he does wonderful.
Yeah, so nepotism, I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing. It is in the case of Wyatt Russell. Kurt Russell's the man, his son sucks. Bill Pullman's the man, his son rules. You know, the scales are evenly balanced as it pertains to this movie. And at the end of the day, to all the TikTokers and all the people pushing this kind of cultural conversation of how bad nepotism is as a thing, why don't you go become successful and go have a child and see if you want to help them?
Yeah, and leave them hanging out to dry. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, that would be an awesome thing, to not provide everything that you can for your fucking children.
For your own family.
God forbid you put your family first. That's not how the world works.
I mean, if my dad didn't help me, I'd be so grateful.
Literally, if my parents didn't do their absolute very best, that would be sick. You guys,
I'd probably end up just like Bob in this movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
But returning to Wyatt Russell with this Nepo baby sort of idea, it's almost like meta, because he's the perfect character for like middle schoolers and high schoolers who look forward to being fraternity brothers one day.
Yeah. One of the notes that I took as it pertained to his character, which is fortunately for us, as much as I hate this performance, everyone in the movie hates the guy just as much. So it's sort of as much as we hated the character in the performance, so do the characters in the movie.
The person I was most excited about when I first saw them step onto screen was clearly Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who I saw and was like, oh my god, we might actually get something funny from this character being in here. But for some reason, she must be the only character in the entire MCU to never have one comedic line.
It was one of the most unbelievable miscasts I've ever witnessed.
It was so bland.
JLD can do no wrong. Literally no wrong. Except for this movie.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
No charisma, no comedy, no gravitas. As a villain, her being a villain in the first place just, I mean, what are we doing?
I thought Kevin James played a better villain as that neo-Nazi in that one movie no one watched. And they're nowhere near the talent level, even though if you watch Kevin James's first special, don't sweat the small stuff. It's one of the best clean specials of all time. It's incredible.
There's a flashback in the movie where they show her as a little girl, and she's fully Italian.
Yes.
Living in Italy, speaking Italian, full Italian accent. And you flash forward, and it's just Julia Louis-Dreyfus being herself.
Literally.
American accent, as American as it gets, nothing Italian about it. I don't know, they were like, we need the WAP community to be involved in this film.
It's such an afterbrush stroke of like, you're so deep into it. You've already realized that this is a miscast. You've already realized that this is not good. And then they go, also, her dad tried to escape fascism.
And she was in a basement.
There was nothing Sebastian Stan could do to make his character interesting or dynamic.
Right.
Not a single good line.
Yeah, poor Sebastian Stan. I mean, they did make him look cool on a motorcycle for a little bit, but then they just have him be extremely annoying. He gives probably one of the worst dramatic monologues I've ever heard about, like, how you can run but you can't hide, even though he like wanted to kill these people like 2 seconds ago, and now all of a sudden he's just completely on their side.
Look, I've been where you are. The past doesn't go away.
David Harbour.
Very funny.
The only character that genuinely made me laugh maybe like twice in the movie.
I click leave on porch. Your subordinates will be reported to DoorDash HQ.
Yeah, some good gut laughs, genuinely, from David Harbour. There was one moment where he, instead of saying, that's what I'm talking about, says, that's what I talk about, in an obviously shitty Russian accent. And the crowd lost it. It was it was such a bummer.
It was so weird. It made me so sad for the future of humanity.
She's bulletproof. What happened to bulletproof? It's bulletproof-ish.
God bless you for finding the general brand of Marvel humor funny. It is not. That's okay. You can like it, no judgment. I mean, definitely judge, but not, do you? But this was such a clear-cut example that we both experienced of an objectively super hacky joke that should have been kiboshed in the writer's room immediately. Essentially, someone would have flipped that joke about, what if he says, that's what they talk about? And the professional writer should have gone, okay. Anyway, and then just continued writing the fucking movie.
Thank you for your input.
Yeah. Or just like Dr. Evil looking for the button to press that sends his chair into flames.
But it turns out it was the best decision they made. Yeah. Because the whole theater, besides Nat and I, erupted into laughter.
Yeah, it was kind of brutal and sad, but, we'll move on.
We'll move on. Let's get into the best thing that Disney has done to show their complete inadequacy in being able to be a part of a liberal movement in Hollywood like they claim they are.
Ghost.
The diversity hire of the decade.
Truly riveting stuff. I don't know what this character's real name is.
Yeah.
I can easily look it up, but I don't remember her. They literally didn't give her backstory.
No.
They touched on everybody. They gave just a little bit, just enough of every person, except for the diversity hire, which was Ghost.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Ghost killed another diversity hire.
That's true.
Towards the beginning of the film.
Yeah, we know nothing about this character. I know nothing about this actress. I think she was like fine, probably.
Yeah, I think she was like giving that classic like attitude like throughout the film, and that's all she was there for.
Yeah, she wasn't having it. Truly didn't add a thing to the movie. Real bummer. No reason to be there. Movie would have been better without her, or write her better.
God.
The coolest part is she has a mask which turns on like and makes her like sort of invisible, but it covers her face. Yeah. So the most interesting parts about her is when you can't tell that she's light skinned.
And let's be honest, the mask is white.
The mask
is white.
The transcendental Hannah John Kamen.
The ultra famous social media star John Hannah Kamen.
Kamen, is that Jewish? No.
She's Norwegian?
Part.
There's a character that shows up in Scrubs at the beginning of this movie who you think isn't gonna add much to the film whatsoever. You think he's what Ghost ends up being. Turns out we're wrong.
Who are you?
I'm Bob.
He's a central character. He's sort of the crux of the movie. He's played by Lewis Pullman. His name's Bob, and then something happens, and it's fucking sick. He is excellent in this movie. He's super engaging. He plays a truly broken person, and he plays it really well. I'm sure that when he got cast in this, he's like, this is sick because I get to play this like tormented, traumatized, troubled person. And he nails it. He's fantastic in it. I was totally bought in.
This film has a lot to do with what Psychology 101 taught me, which is the shadow self. And he plays both that innocent, what am I doing here, broken man-child, to his basically evil shadow self really well.
Super well. It's really cool to watch the unfolding of a broken person's ego throughout the movie and his own battles with it, which are superhuman, and not superhuman, but very human. Everyone can relate to this. Everyone can relate to having a taste of change and not knowing what to do with it. Lewis Pullman is understated when he needs to be. He's right on the nose when he needs to be. And I'm really excited about his future with Marvel.
Yeah, he's also just like not like the classic handsome, strikingly fit guy that you see in a Marvel movie, hence why we kind of wrote him off at the beginning, like, oh, this guy's not going to be important.
Yeah, we thought like he's going to be dweeby for dweeby's sake.
But it makes sense because like his character's power isn't really like, I mean, yes, he's got strength, but the main thing he does is like a mental fucking game. Although this movie is very predictable, like halfway through, you sort of know how it's gonna unfold and what's gonna happen. You're pleasantly surprised by how it unfolds and the way they choose to unfold it. It's deeply interesting. It draws me in. It makes me like actually care for a second, mostly about Bob and Yelena, Florence Pugh's character. Bob, listen to me. It is not your fault.
Yeah, no, I know.
No. It is the void. It is not your fault.
No, I've already made this delineation. I'm pretty well developed, actually.
It's not your fault.
I'm telling you, I know, man.
Bob. It's not your fault.
Don't fuck with me, man.
It's not your fault.
Don't fuck with me, Florence Pugh, not you.
Bob. It's not your fault.
Oh, God, will they, won't they, Florence Pugh?
It's not your fault!
God, she's so sexy in this movie.
It's not your fault!
God, I'm so sorry, Florence Pugh!
It's not your fault!
I'm sorry, Florence Pugh! Neither of us expected what was going to happen with Bob, the importance of his character, and we loved how it played out, and I don't think they missed a beat. There were some sequences at the end where there's this like other world that they enter that was
Stranger Things-esque.
very impactful. It started to, and it does in the beginning of the movie and sort of permeates throughout and kind of comes to a good head near the end. It's a good finale of a Marvel movie, but it touches on some, surprisingly dark themes for the MCU: addiction, mental health, trauma, violence, like real human experiences, and then starts to touch on the other side of those same emotions: togetherness, community, support, emotional honesty, all things that are being unpacked through this pretty awesome dynamic between Florence and Bob.
They did a good job of like spreading it out through the whole film and putting it in where it needs to, because it is a Marvel movie, because it is made for children to watch as well. It's not gonna show Bob cutting himself.
Sure. It's not going to physically show Bob getting the shit beat out of him by his parents.
It's not going to show Bob sticking a needle into his arm and nodding off.
But it will show, some residue over here, and it will give you some auditory cues of family violence and assault and battery. There's this kind of climactic sequence as the Thunderbolts are all jumping into this dark world. Some by accident, some by choice, coming back together as a team. It's all about the team. And there's a super duper epic finishing sequence, this battle between the Shadow Self that can only be surmounted together. It can't be tackled on an individual scale. It was a little bit too Disney-fied for Crawford. He had a laugh out loud moment.
I hates that.
That's okay. Everyone's different. But it was just to touch on the difference, like it was Disney-fied for Crawford to the point of humor.
Right.
I was trying as hard as I could to not cry. And then when Crawford inevitably leans over me, like, oh, did you see how goofy that was? And I'm literally crying.
I'm on antidepressants. I can't connect. When Florence Pugh needs to use some guy's face for facial recognition to get into a door, and then she accidentally shoots him in the face, and instead of just us as an audience being like, oh, well, she can't get in that door now, she has to go, oh, I needed that face. When I'm sprinkled with things like that throughout a whole movie, when I see like a group of characters hug each other to like escape evil reality for the rest of their lives, I can't help but giggle. Every sense of comedy in this movie comes from like the characters having a bit of self-awareness about themselves, and then they just have so little awareness about their trauma. And then at the end, they find some self-awareness about their trauma. So I guess like in this meta world, it all kind of beautifully connects in the end.
It's a strong movie.
Yeah. They also reference like a Kierkegaard quote at one point, which just made me laugh so hard, even though it wasn't meant to be funny. It was just like, why?
That was equally funny for me, and I don't know who Kierkegaard is.
There's a scene where they could have gone really Game of Thrones with this movie, and I was hoping they would, but they didn't. Probably turned out for the best that they didn't. But kill more people off, Marvel.
Yeah, let people die. That was a huge deal when everyone died in Avengers, and I think it wasn't until the next one that they brought them all back.
Leave them dead.
Yeah, I was on drugs when the Avengers were coming out, so I remember them, but not really.
Also, if this is going to be the ultimate sequel, why is anyone still living in New York City?
It's crazy.
They have an alien invasion like once a year in that city.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of there.
Well, where am I gonna get a slice at 2 in the morning?
I need a bacon, egg, and cheese at 5 in the morning.
No, because I know my guy at the bodega. I just take the Q to the C and I'm right there.
I want a lox bagel with a side of poop. Like, if I would have saw this movie when I was younger, like middle school age probably, it would have affected me in a much different way, not having much life experience yet and not going through like my own journey through like really dark mental health stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like in Spider-Man, right? Like you get sold on that like he's this kind of like nerdy outcast kid who gets powers, and there's like that kind of baseline relativity and like looking up to. In Batman, he's an orphan, and people can experience and relate to the loss, and then he kind of picks himself up by the bootstraps and becomes a vigilante. This is probably the first superhero movie that I can really remember that dives so deep into the emotional side of superheroes outside of some TV shows and maybe a little bit Christopher Nolan's movies. But if as a kid and you're watching this, and even if you're not able to relate with like addiction and alcoholism, like maybe you do in your family, depression, anxiety, nihilism, apathy, pushing things away, like those are things that are like essentially universal to a teenager and a young adult.
Right, let's be honest. I would rather have Thanos snap my neck than Dark Sentry make me relive all my trauma.
It's horrible. It's like light therapy.
So just to recap, Wyatt Russell, he plays a piece of shit and his ego won't let him take accountability for pretty much anything. Florence Pugh deals with her troubled childhood with nihilism and apathy and Kierkegaard quotes. And then we've got Bob, who's a manic depressive and addicted to opiates and probably stems from his parental abuse. And we've got Ghost, who, probably has it the worst of all. She's a light-skinned black woman.
Big takeaway, tell your friends where you're at. Be honest with them. If you don't have friends that you can be honest with, get new friends. Follow their actions, not their words.
Yeah, and follow us. Because we
are so poor. And if this took off in any way, it would be so huge.
So poor.
It would be unbelievable. We could use it as a platform for my stand-up. My Instagram's nat.comedian.
My filmmaking, my Instagram's at Crawford Banks.
Check us out at the Thundercons *.
The Matinee Bros.